Welcome to Producing in Pandemic, session 22. Is this our 22nd or 23rd session? 22, session 22. We will be beginning shortly. That was just us sharing our communication agreements. Well, it is actually 6 after 10, so let's get started. We like to give ourselves 5 minutes of entry time. And we were just having a delightful conversation about gastro theater. And it was a great conversation. I hope that comes back up again. Let's introduce ourselves. The exercise we're about to do is to say who you are, what your practice is, where you're coming from. We are trying to share time together today, and we have a few things that we'd like to check out. We are going to be visited by, we're going to get a tour of SF Shakespeare's production today. And we've got a couple of other things on our agenda, so we're super excited. So please introduce yourselves and share either a challenge or a learning you've had this week. And we do a decolonized beginning, so land agreements, and we also do an access check-in. So let us know if there's anything we need to know to make this space more accessible to you. I will model to begin. Hello, I'm Claudia Alick. I am speaking to you from the land of the Ohlone people. The people are still alive. Also, just take a moment to take a shout out to acknowledge that we have people incarcerated and in concentration camps right now in this country. I am the head of Calling Up Justice, a transmedia social justice practice, and we have just started creating something that we're calling Gaming for Justice, which is just basically us playing video games and then doing whatever our natural commentary to a video game is it usually produces a really interesting exchange around social justice. So we're in the midst of our development time as we're figuring out what are the best ways to share screen. We just discovered yesterday a way to have like 6 voices participate in judging a video game at the same time, so that was fun. And also I discovered I've been looking at a lot of technologies that are about meeting and doing open space technology, and I checked out airmeet.com, and Joshua Watterson, if he makes it today, he said he'd give us a tour of it. He might come today or he might come next week, but he and I did a full experimental where we went on tables, we talked to each other, and I was like, this is fun. We should experiment with this with a larger group of people to really test out the robustness of this program. I am in the midst of having a bit of a pain flare, so you might see me pull a face. I'm never pulling a face at anything you say. Other than that, I've got my coffee and my water, and all of my access needs are met. We practice horizontal leadership, so I'm not going to call on people. We're just going to ask you to put your name in the chat and then take agency and call on yourself. I will mute myself and let us begin.
So while people are lining up, I'll go to give you guys a little buffer time. I'm Danik Bay, she, her pronouns. I'm on the land of the Ohlone people in Oakland, California, blah, blah, blah. What else am I saying? Admin, producer for Calling Up Justice. My access needs are met. I'm gonna drink some smoothie, maybe some cold water, since everyone who lives in the Bay knows that it's real hot right now. I know everyone else thinks it's not real hot, but for the Bay Area people, we're gonna complain about this because it's our 1 week of painful heat. And then that's it. I don't have much challenges today. Excited to be here and learn. Tammy is next.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Danny. My name is Tammy. I'm based in the homeland of the Comanche, Wichita, Waco, and affiliated tribes people. I am also loath to call it Fort Worth, but that's where I am, Fort Worth, Texas. I have a MIA cat, so I'm gonna turn off my camera a little while because I need to go get that cat in the house. We had a huge storm yesterday. It was a little bit scary because when you have the heat masses colliding with the cold front, tornadoes happen, and we didn't have that, but it was kind of a little scary for a minute. And now it's like 70 degrees outside, so it's a blessing. I am a performance artist, spoken word, poetry, director, writer, producer, and struggling in Texas because it's a challenge to do creative and inventive things in this state and to get the funding to support the work that I do. She, her, hers are my pronouns. Like I said, I'm going to turn off my camera in a little while just because I'm going to be back and forth trying to find Jackie Hammer, who's missing. And yeah, I appreciate everything that y'all are sharing. Look forward to the meeting today. Thanks. And I'm not sure who's next. I did not look in the chat. Oh, it's Rebecca. Hi, Rebecca.
Hi, Tammy. I'm Rebecca E. today. It's always a delight when we get to be Rebecca Squared. Rebecca Pingree and I are good pals. So I didn't see that. Sorry, I should have put that in, Rebecca E. And I use she, her pronouns. I am zooming in from the land of the Ramaytush Ohlone people, whose current efforts are to remove statues and acknowledgements of Father Junipero Serra, who assisted in committing genocide against the Ramaytush Ohlone people. So that's a big campaign going on right now I want to call attention to. I work for San Francisco Shakespeare Festival. I'm a director and writer and educator, and currently producing in a pandemic what we are now calling a unified virtual space production, UVS. We have a name for it now, thanks to RTD. That's me.
Hi. Hi, everyone. I'm Joan Lipkin. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I am zooming to you from Osage Country, which is currently known as St. Louis. I'm a theater maker and really kind of a community organizer. My good news is that we are getting ready to roll out 20 plus videos of predominantly BIPOC choreographers that address issues of voting and or things that concern them. And we commission those and we're paying for those. So that's the good news. I'm struggling today with the fact that I made a presentation early this morning to a funder and they wanted all these measurables like, well, how do you know how effective you've been with your graphic campaign? And how do you know, and those are the kinds of things that I'm not really good at. And so I'm trying to learn how to measure things when so much of what we do is organic. Surely when we roll out these videos, people will be able to measure how many people saw the videos. But when we did a graphic campaign to promote Medicaid, that went to so many different entities. And when we worked on, also helping with Cori Bush, I don't know how to measure that. So that's very, seems very patriarchal and capitalistic in ways that are difficult for me. The other quick thing I wanted to throw out as a question is that we're thinking about doing something called Good Trouble, why John Lewis inspires me to vote, and trying to do that as a region-wide experience for college students here. I'm very excited about this idea. I would love, and I'll put my question in the chat, one of our partners thinks it should just be a 1-minute TikTok. Other people think it could be longer. So I would welcome anybody's wisdom about what they think is the best format and platform. And with that, I will send to my old friend, Sabrina Hamilton. Thank you.
Hi, it's Sabrina, and I use the pronoun she, her, hers. I run the Co-Festival of Performance here in traditional lands of the Nipmuc and Pocumtuck people, now known as Western Massachusetts. My access needs are met, and although I'm going to have to drop off and then come back in for briefly during this session, it's not because of anything you said. We just recently finished our first online workshop, and I'm getting feedback emails, and I asked quite a few questions about how this operated in the digital space for people. And if there's anything to glean from this, I'll report in next week. I think it's Heather next, maybe? A little unclear, but I think so.
I believe it's me. I'm not Heather. I'm Carlos Alexis, pronouns, keep them in Spanish, él, ellos. I am calling from the land of the Sugar and the Catawba people, Charlotte, North Carolina, and I always say I'm a proud descendant of the Taino, Puerto Rico. My accent needs are met. As always, I can hear kids in the room next door. They just finished their schoolwork, so they started today online. So it's it's the journey that is happening. In terms of discoveries, I just literally had a 3-hour. I'm a producing artistic director for a social circus company in Charlotte called the Nouveau Soup Project, and you heard about that probably if you were here last time. And I'm also a faculty member at UNC Charlotte, and I had my first faculty meeting of the semester just seconds ago. That's why I was late. It was a 3-hour Zoom meeting, in which we discussed many things, but then we ended up with a diversity conversation, which just kind of like hit me in a way that I had to call some stuff out, but I think it's part of who I am and what I bring to the table to that department in that university. So that's where I'm at. And happy to report that we finally recorded some clips in the last practice of the troupe. So the PSA on circus and mask is coming. So it might be on Instagram either today or tomorrow. So you'll see that. So I'll share with you all once that's out. Okay, so cool.
Hello. Hello, I am Scarlet Marasa Rivera. I'm coming out today from Lafayette, Colorado in Cheyenne and Siouxland. She, her, hers. Currently, I'm with Letter of Marque Theater Company, co-founder, but I've been doing a lot of teaching New York City public high schools through Irondale Ensemble Project. And I am in a different place, so at any time I might pop in and pop out with my camera. And it's been a really emotional challenge for me this week, as we have so much programming coming up. We have submissions to a playwright lab and classes that my core community is just all over, and coming to terms with September coming and trying to find my local family, because it's really hitting me now that they're gone. And I'm checked in. I'm now going to pass it to Rebecca.
You can go ahead, Rebecca.
Oh, I was going to say, I thought it was Rob. Hello, Rebecca P. Rebecca squared with Annals. Yay. She, her, hers. I am speaking to you from Chechnya Ohlone land, which is commonly known now as Berkeley, California. I am the co-founder as of the beginning of this year of a small company called Analog Theater that focuses on mask and physical theater performance and puppets and pre-digital forms. And so we are still, the San Francisco Fringe this year is not going to be happening in person naturally, but there's going to be a sneak peek of the Fringe, and then we will do hopefully our original planned show for 2021, we hope. But we're still navigating in the next month and a half what our participation will be in the sneak peek. And so this week I'll be embarking on a mask making video project, and I'm not usually a video artist, so it's going to be exciting. At the moment, my access needs are met, and I'll pass it to Rob.
Hey everybody, I'm Rob Neal. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I am currently on the land of the Lenape people in Manhattan. I may be off camera a little bit because just prior to this, I managed to drop a small glass jar of sticky things in the kitchen, and I will have to continue to clean that while I listen to some of what you're saying. But I think most of the glass part is up. That being said, we are moving forward. I'm one of the New York Neo-Futurists, and we are moving forward. We have transitioned from 2 episodes of our audio podcast, Hit Play per weekend, to just 1 episode. And at the end of the month, we launch the Cyber Wrench, which is a live show of neo-futurism, and we're discovering what that means. Tickets are now on sale as of this weekend, and if you join our Patreon, you get access to it. So we're playing with the ways that people can access the show. We are really trying to have the show be accessible as possible. So we have a sliding ticket scale that matches what our Patreon levels are. So we went with a different ticket provider, Ticket Leap, so we could have a $5 ticket and not charge fees on top of any of our ticket levels, which is a new approach for us and was after lots of discussion about that, because that's a very different way of looking at things than what we normally do. We always thought our tickets were affordable, and now you can have an affordable ticket, or you can have a ticket that I would say is not affordable, and it's up to you, however that works. And then on top of that, the interesting thing about the way we're approaching this live show is that not only can you watch it from anywhere, but we're going to try to have someone be out in the world for part of it and perform it from somewhere besides the comfort of their own home. So we'll see what that looks like. And I can't remember if, did we talk? I went to Eschaton, but I can't remember if I went there after the last time we talked or before the last time I talked, but that was kind of a very interesting live immersive show on Saturday nights, late night, that is just an hour long, and there's the next 3 Saturdays they're doing theirs show. And it's kind of, I think it's Queen of the Night and Sleep No More kind of people doing cabaret and fun stuff. That some people are engaging with you and some people aren't, and it's a lot of their story and performance. So that was fascinating to be in the audience of and see how that went. Learned a lot. And so I think now the way we've done this, that I think I've covered all I need to, so I would throw it to Heather, right? Is that correct? All right, Heather.
Hey, everybody. So happy to be here. I'm Heather Andersma, she, her, hers pronouns. Zooming in from Ohlone lands, where Chochenyo was spoken for millennia until about 85 years ago, and I just learned began to be spoken again about 20 years ago, which I find really inspiring and resilient, that a language that seems to have died out actually can be brought back. I was on Discord for the very first time this week, so I feel like that was a little notch in my education. Very simple, but I just wanted to check that out because I've heard so many people use it as one of the communication streams when running shows. I'm a freelance director, and I'm on my journey to become an intimacy director / coordinator. And I think that's it for me for this week. And I think Robin is after me.
Sorry. Hi, I'm Robin. I am speaking from coastal Miwok and Ohlone lands, colonially known as Mill Valley in the Bay Area. And my pronouns are she, her, hers. I have access needs being met. I am associated with the Mountain Play, which is a local musical theater group that's been going on actually for over 100 years, that does musicals, also original-ish written stuff on Mount Tam, which is our local big, landscape thing. I echo the visiting of Discord. We just did that this week as well with Claudia. Actually, we were discovering a whole bunch of fun stuff. Robin,
can I give you permission if you want to talk a little bit more about what we were doing in Discord with the Transmedia Asynchronous Learning Lab? Feel free. You don't have to, but if you want to talk more about it, you totally can.
Okay. Sure. So we were trying to figure out a place to, we did an OBS workshop, and we were trying to figure out a good place for people to go back and talk about it and learn more stuff and put all of the resources into, which I still have to actually upload that stuff. But so what we were trying to figure out is whether we put it underneath Calling Up Justice or making its own little channel. And after so much, it really is, it comes down to just exploring and experimenting all of the different ways to deal with Discord. But we came up at doing its own page. And then the fun part was we discovered the whole video chat, which is actually very similar to Zoom. And you can share your screen. You can do all sorts of really pretty cool stuff with it now. And so we discovered being able to do video along with, you know, just having like a vocal conversation over Discord, as well as doing chat and how to upload, you know, the PDFs and stuff like that. So yeah, it's pretty cool. We did some good stuff. Thank you. I'm so glad to be part of this group. It makes me happy. Passing on to Michaela.
Hi, I'm Mickey, she, her, hers. I'm on Ohlone land in Berkeley, and I'm fascinated to hear Heather's news about the Chochenyo language. I didn't know about that either. It's been a really packed and fabulous week for me. I spent a couple of days working with family theater in Denver, and I think, as I said last week, we've been talking for years about trying to, you know, me wanting to go to Denver in real life, and the fact that now I've just done 3 projects with them is amazing. And Reagan is really interested in coming and talking to this group about what they're doing, but she has to figure out, she usually has her staff meeting, and she and Claudia will figure it out. And I just posted in the chat this great article in the Denver Post about how they are experiencing this moment and pivoting and adapting the way disabled folks do so fabulously. Anyway, okay, so I was with them, and then also Heather and I both got to pitch projects to Joanna Felser at Berkeley Rep this week, because we took this amazing directing pitching class through Berkeley Rep School. And I just want to do a shout out. Berkeley Rep School is doing some amazing online classes, and they're not super expensive, and they definitely recommend checking them out. I'll post it in the chat. And then I'm also taking class with Marasa Trevina Orta through Chicago Dramatists, and she's doing that class again this fall, Poetics of Playwriting. It is beautiful. I write so much in this class. If you're ever interested in poetry or playwriting, I urge you to take this class, and I'll post that in the chat too, and just glad to be here. My access need is it's hard to sit, and I'll probably get up and do the hula a few times during the meeting. So enjoy that.
Thank you, Mickey. Hello, my name is Kholoud Sawaf. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm speaking to you from Fayetteville, Arkansas, the land of the Osage, the Caddo, and the Quapaw people. And speaking of occupied ancestral homeland, I also want to give a shout out to the Palestinian people who are still, they're losing the last 3% of their land as we speak. And it's amazing how this is being repeated over and over and over again in colonization history. So I just want to give a shout out to their resilience and strength as they fight for their existence in culture and language and land. I am a theater director and creator, and I'm part of the Calling Up Justice team. And I am, this week, I'm really actually thinking a lot about, like, now that we are proposing new projects and thinking about new ideas, how to combine, how to bring the digital world as part of the presence and the existence of what merges an idea and what creates an idea, as opposed to adapting that. How do we emerge from there? So I'm really, really, really thinking about that and living with that question a lot, and excited to what might come up. And my access needs are met. I have a funky internet a little bit, so I might go off videos on and off. And I'm passing it to Ariella.
Hey, thanks, Kholoud. My name is Ariella, pronouns she, her, hers. I'm coming to you from the land of the Coast Miwok people, Novato, California. And I'm an independent director, educator, work a few different places around the Bay. And my access needs are mostly met. I'm going to be eating, so I'll probably more comfortable with my camera off. And then at 11, I need to go to my next job. I'm really glad to be back after some weeks here and there. Let's see, a discovery this week is not totally limited to online producing, but I'm trying to figure out with a script licensing company how to get a virtual license to produce a reading of a play, because I am not my own organization. I'm partnering with another organization that's trying to figure out how to apply for the license, but as my kind of sub-producing unit. I bet there's some really good advice about that on this call. I don't know that it'll come up, but that's kind of a little query that I'm trying to figure out right now. And also I got to see SF Shake's Lear last night, which is a very exciting adventure in virtual theater making. So congratulations to that team. Very, very cool. Thanks.
I believe we are all met, but I like to give a moment just to allow someone to voice and say, I didn't say anything. Brilliant. Real fast, a couple of comments, and I'm going to pass this our experience on to Rebecca. So there was a question about lurkers in the chat, so I wanted to give us a few moments to maybe do a go backsies to a previous meeting's question and maybe address that just in a moment. But just a few comments on performativity and the Zoom. As you know, we run a relaxed meeting, so we're like cameras on, cameras off, walk out of the frame. I trust that you didn't leave the building. I recognize that even though I can't see you reacting inside the frame, you're still participating, and that's great, that's fine. But I also recognize that not all spaces are like that. So I'm so fascinated about not only what are the different performative frames for the Zoom I need to stop saying Zoom as a catch-all for all digital exchanges, because there's Skype, there's all sorts of different platforms, GoToMeeting. But what are the different performative things that we're doing, and how are we sharing them with our group? Are we doing the thing where in this group we're a little explicit with them? Are groups organically coming up with these sort of ways of working together? So curious. Big shout out, yes, big shout out to Discord. One of the things that I did was I just started going through other people's Discords and looking at how they format themselves, where they put their communication agreements. And I've been looking at the Discords that have been around for a while to see, oh, how do you set up a Discord space so it can have the cleanest and happiest communication paths just from the get-go. I visited StreamYard, and so I was on Twitch, and there was a guy who was producing a variety show. No, it wasn't a variety show, it was a singing contest. So he's on Twitch, and there's a StreamYard link. I click on the StreamYard link, and it takes me directly into the backstage area. I'm in the backstage area. They can chat me and they can say, hey, do you want to sing in the singing contest? And then I can say, oh no, I didn't know what I was doing. Let me leave this and just watch your singing contest. But they had people voting in the comments section. And I just wanted to share that as, oh, that was a very interesting model. And it used StreamYard and Twitch as its main platforms. But I also ended up going into this dude's Discord to find out more about his practice, about all the people producing it. And then that's how I contacted him to say, hey, I'm interested in how you set this up. Let's chat. So who knows, he might contact me, and then we might have somebody giving us a field trip. Another shout out to the question of how do you create a narrative of legible success for funders who are working with different imagined outcomes. One of the beautiful gifts of working digitally is that we can actually embed some stuff in our products that will help us to track their analytics. So you can do something to your video so that you can track where it's being shared and all the places it's being shared. So potentially maybe in a future conversation, we can invite someone who might have some more expertise on that to let us know, how can we create cultural productions that we have embedded stuff in so that we can track them, so we can see where they go in the world. All right, so those were all of my go backs from our beautiful conversation. I'm gonna pause. Yes, please.
I have a quick thing. I think there might have been a small kind of thing in the email, because Elizabeth Carter and who's the director of Lear, and Neal weren't able to be here for today. They were trying to think of maybe doing it for next week, but since Rebecca is here, if you wanted to talk even a little bit about the previous permissions. Otherwise, actually, if we want to talk about all the things that you just listed off, Claudia, those sound like all amazing discussions.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Well, let's start off with the conversation that someone asked. Like, what do you do with lurkers? So this was someone, I forget if I don't know if they're in this meeting today, but they brought the question of, what do you do when you enter into a breakout room or a meeting space and there's somebody there, they're not identified, they're not voicing, they're just watching. I'm opening the conversation to others. Have you experienced this? And what are the ways you've managed it if you have?
You know, I have had it where I was in a sort of a taking an online yoga class, but that might have been a little bit different just because, you know, the yoga teacher was trying to take precedent, but then there was only one other person who had their video on. I'm going to be doing classes actually at the same place, hopefully soon, actually to do with Lear. And that's a huge question, is like, because I want to make it accessible. So there might be some people who just don't feel like they want to put on their, you know, let people into their homes, which makes complete sense. But when you're doing something like a theater class or, you know, something along those lines, I think it would be kind of difficult. So allowing even for that accessibility to do a Zoom course, but also make it so that it's not invasive somehow. It's a good question. I think Tammy actually brought it up last week.
I mean, in past teaching, it's just we've removed those people, unless, because usually if you're in the room, even if there's camera off, there's still, if you've stuck around for the breakout room, that's kind of in a level of agreement. So usually, you know, it's been called out to the moderator, or if I've been co-hosting, or I'm co-hosting with someone else, chat to that person directly, they'll remove them. Now there's a setting inside of Zoom in particularly where you can, once you remove somebody, they cannot come back in. I've accidentally removed a student during class and then had to like restart the entire Zoom so I could uncheck it to let them back in. This early days. So if that happens, and I think that's why waiting room is so important, is that that person has to go to the waiting room first, if you're worried about those kind of things. Thank you.
I was gonna say, I guess the potential of Zoom bombing always still exists, and that's, I think, the biggest kind of what is a pressing issue for that particular moment. We have the example at AFA that the moments that we have to call it out was when conversations were how do you say, they were intent for a particular group of people, and then you have a lurker, and then you're like, they are supposed to be affinity spaces, and then you decide not to identify yourself. Like, we had to, you need to bring yourself forward, or else you should not be in this conversation. So there's that. But yeah, I think I guess it depends on what the space is. But regardless, ultimately, you can. I've been in 2 occasions in which I witnessed Zoom bombing. One with you know, sexual sort of profanity in a Latin American circus conversation, and which had nothing to do with it. Just somebody, I don't know, that and the other one was a little bit more extreme. It's a colleague who was doing something for her school, and there were some African American leaders in it, like leading the conversation, and they literally took it and wrote the N-word across the screen in a screen share. So yeah, I mean, I guess it's tough. Again, it depends on the space in what you're presenting. More likely than not, at least the person should be identified, even if they don't want to have the conversation. I think the meeting room, how do you call it, the waiting room, it's a good way of trying to mitigate that. But yeah.
Yeah, I agree with Carlos that addressing that in the meeting room and or tacking it on to your communications agreements at the outset, then folks who need to excuse themselves or don't feel comfortable being in a breakout room session can already know that they're going to do that, or have already kind of let other participants in the meeting or the workshop or event know that in advance. I was the person that brought this up last week. I was in a candlelight vigil and like a healing ceremony on on grief and loss during the pandemic, and related to COVID-19 and personal losses, loss of income, loss of work, loss of connections with family relationships. So it was very deep emotional terrain, and the breakout session was only for about 10 minutes, but I was in a breakout room with 3 people, and one of them never even recognized or acknowledged us through chat and did not respond to my invitation to participate via chat if they didn't want to turn on their camera or speak out loud to us. So I know that's not necessarily related to performance, but I just started getting my wheels turning about how we address this in performative or workshop spaces and learning spaces where as facilitators, educators, we may not get the feedback we need from the participant to know what, if their needs are being met, if they're having an emotional upset moment, etc. So I think it's something, I mean, I feel like I kind of answered the question myself before the week was out, but I mean, I'm just very excited to once again acknowledge, the work that's done here in this particular group every week to make sure that people feel comfortable sharing their needs, their fluctuating needs, and that we can change our minds. We can decide, nope, this isn't for me, or I'm too scared. But we communicate those changes and emotional upswirls. We can do that in a safe way. Excuse me. I hope I'm audible. I'm not. I'm not feeling very well right now. Thanks. Thanks for listening.
We could hear you. Thank you.
Yeah, I was just typing in the chat about the waiting room in terms of like using it, and I guess I can voice that a little bit. So I guess I can start from the top. When you register a Zoom meeting, you can put in like a registration link, which is what we do for this meeting, so that we have like access to know that you're a real person. But when you do something more public, you can always put in the waiting room. And so what it does is it allows the host to let people in. And I don't know if most people know this, but I do, because I write down in the notes who comes. So when I have the participant box open, the order actually switches based on the mic and like who's talking, or if you like change your name. So it's harder to clock someone who is Zoom bombing or being a jerk in a chat because your names are switching. And so what I've found in terms of like the waiting room is, for the Women's Theater Festival that I did, we actually had an individual who was in the waiting room and was not talking to us and looked like they had a pretty normal name. And so the administrator and I typed in, "Hi, how are you? How'd you hear about us? Are you interested in seeing the performance?" And they never responded. When we like would check in regularly to be like, "Hey, do you like want to come in?" And they never responded. So we were like, this is a little suspicious. And so then we just kicked them out of the waiting room. But then they never came back. And so it just gives that extra step of stopping a Zoom bomber, because a Zoom bomber doesn't necessarily want to be stuck in a waiting room and then have to prove that they're a real person and then come in and then Zoom bomb you and then like leave and then get kicked out. Typically they're just like, I'm gonna join this like rando thing and like drop my Zoom bombing and then like go away. Like it's just, I feel like it's just giving that extra step. I will say sometimes I do feel a little bit icky because I am like judging people based off of their name, but I'm also like, I don't want to get Zoom bombed. So there's also that like duality, like I'm making a jump decision based off of someone's Zoom name that I'm clocking and bringing forth. So yes, it is typical to feel that grossness as you judge people.
Yeah, we talked about this, I think, in one of our early meetings where access and safety, you're trying to find that magical middle place, right? And also these experiences we're having in digital spaces, these are the same experiences we've had in physical spaces. So I don't know about you, but I have on more than one occasion been in a tight circle of people having an intense conversation that's obviously a meeting. Yeah, maybe we're in a park, maybe we're in a cafeteria, but some stranger has just been like, you know what? Those people look like they're having an experience and I want to get in on it. And then they just hang out and then you're like, who are you that's just listening to us? What are you doing? And then usually it requires you interrupting your thing to question the person. Now, every once in a while, the person says something magical and you're like, oh, sit down and join the circle. That's rare. And usually you're like, oh, you're interrupting the performative score of what we're doing. There's an intimacy or there are some rules. So it feels like knowing what the parameters of your project are important. Like what is your space? How permeable is it? Please.
I had an experience on the access side. Last weekend, we did an event, a pre-show event for Lear, specifically partnering with a senior center. And I think, again, I was doing most of my communication with the director of that senior center and not directly with the seniors, but they did have to register and we had a list of names, as Danny is saying. That is how we always do it for security of the cast and the team. But they had such trouble with Zoom. I had them coming, they were popping in and out of the waiting room, and then before I could let them in, they were disappearing and then coming back, and they didn't have actual names. And the whole thing, unfortunately, only a couple of people actually made it into the event. And so again, that was one of those, like, I would have totally prioritized access over security because I felt it was like very limited people knew about this event at all. But that just led to like, okay, so we need to figure out a way for the senior center to do some kind of training in a format that these seniors are more comfortable with before we attempt to do an event with them in a new format. So we're going to try again because it was such a disaster and we couldn't get them into the space. And again, just like feeling bad because I'm like, I don't know who XX is. I don't know if I can let them in. I'm messaging them in the waiting room. I don't know if they're seeing my messages or if they're understanding like what they should do now. Or it was just a really tricky situation in terms of that particular population and technology.
It also feels important to allow people to be able to, like, in physically shared space, you can enter a room and not talk, and that can be okay. So it's interesting to figure out, oh, what are the levels of accessibility and allowing people to be present at the level that they need to be present? But also, how do you verify identity so you can have trust? Digital spaces, it's complicated. All right, any more observations or thinking or meaning making around this topic?
The only thing I would say is to add on is I think it does take a lot of what you've already done a lot of in this group, Claudia and Danny and Kholoud, is set it up. So it takes the moderators, like if you're going to do this type of Zoom performance, like where you have the audience in here or something along those lines, the moderators should be saying, this is what we expect. What's funny is actually, now that you say it, Claudia, that I think it would be interesting to not only take that back into the theaters when we're back open again, to help describe, like, it's okay to laugh. You can clap and be the only one clapping, and that's okay, you know, or something along those lines. But especially with the Zoom, and hopefully what's funny is if it keeps happening in Zoom, maybe people will get used to it, go back to the theater and even be like, oh, they're giving me instructions. That's fine. This is now what, you know, people do. But I have noticed specifically with Zoom is that, you know, in classes, in the performances, it takes so much more organization on the organizers' parts to really go through that checklist to say, to make sure that they're covering all the bases with the audience, and almost kind of pre-expecting what to expect with people when people just do the things that Tammy was talking about. Like, if they're not going to turn on their videos, what's the protocol?
I got really excited by what you just said, Robin, about when we get back to the physical space and that future time when we're doing, when the plays ended and we're about to start our talk back or Q&A. Have you seen that thunderous roar, you know, that people heading for the exits while someone from the audience has just posed their first question? And I just, can we just insert a bio break there and just let people leave who need to leave or want to leave, and ask them to leave during that time? I don't know. These are things I'm going to think through with a lot more intention. And when we go back, we don't have to go back the same way. And I'm excited for that as well.
Well, this sort of naturally segues into checking out a Discord space. So one of the things these digital spaces are forcing us to do is be incredibly explicit about the performative prompts that allow us to perform together with grace. So in the physical space, you have some things that are obvious that you've learned from childhood. Hallways, doors, signage. There are things that we just organically know how to do them, but in the digital space, it has to be explicit. So I'm going to share my screen and we'll see if I am doing this successfully. Right, sharing screen, and I am sharing this screen of, I just grabbed the OBS community randomly. The first thing I wanted to, so I clicked on it, and the first thing you get is this, welcome. And you get this pop out that says, here's some of the things you can do. There's the server rules. And this is a server. You've got a server, you've got a channel, and then you've got a thread. I believe that is the Discord specific lingo for these separate ways of navigating the space. I'm a big fan of having this, but right now, instead of checking out these specifics, I think I'm just going to look around for now. Now, here I am in the rules section. And oh, it's interesting. It looks like they would allow me to chat. Oh no, I don't have permissions to send messages in this channel. So this channel has been locked. So it will have the information that you need. So welcome, this is the beginning of the server. Has some community agreements, some sentences that say, this is what we're doing in this space. This is what this space is about. And it requests, you know, it's like saying, please don't do this type of behavior. Please don't spam emojis or shit post in this channel. There are also, in a lot of these spaces, there are other community rules or rules of graceful engagement that you have to be more thoughtful about. Like for your audience, do you want to allow them to spam their links? Do you want to give them permission to put a link in there? That might make you vulnerable to someone putting a malicious link in there. So it's again that question of how permeable is the space that you're designing, but you have a lot of room to design your space. So they've got their rules and they've got like a welcome announcement. Again, this welcome announcement is locked. So this information is always what it is. And then they have these lovely hashtags. And if I want to go to a hashtag that's going to be good, let me go to the hashtag rules. So if I go to their hashtag rules, it's going to take me back to the space I was just in. So these hashtags are great. And if I go to this, then I can speak to the person who is at rule enforcement. That person has a role. In these spaces, you can assign roles. You can create roles and then assign people to them. And those roles will have different levels of permissions. to allow people to create channels or create threads in those channels, to moderate, delete someone's post or hide someone's post. So for instance, in the transmedia producing group that we're still putting it together. But Robin, since Robin was in the asynchronous learning lab with me as we were putting it together, I was like, let me give you all the permissions so that you'll be able to help build this space out with me as well. Let me stop sharing my screen and just open us up to any questions. And if you'd like me to go explore something specific, I can do that as well.
What are the benefits of Discord over Slack? I've been using Slack a lot, and I haven't tried Discord yet, but I'm curious how it's different.
I always like to give room for others to weigh in. I like Discord because it allows you to, you can share a voice channel and talk to someone. So you can have like real-time conversations. And it felt like there was no lag at all, Robin.
No, there wasn't. It was, and the other big thing that we found was that we could talk over each other. So it was a little bit more like actually having a conversation. I could hear Claudia when they were talking in the same time that I was talking. So that was pretty cool. I mean, I actually, yeah, I think what it took for me, I totally understand your question, Michaela, as far as the difference between Slack, well, any of the other ones, but I think what it takes is just a matter of learning the, just the general setup between like something like, or the fact that you have the, like, what are the different windows? And the other thing that I liked about Discord anyway is that it looks like you can nest things a little bit more easily than you could with Slack. And it's a little bit more open. So I can have friends that are outside or different servers. I can put all of my different things into that one Discord. So you saw with Claudia's Discord, there was like calling up justice, and there was like a number of other servers that she could like click into anytime. And I think with Slack, you have to like sign out and sign back in. I could be wrong about that, but you couldn't necessarily, I can't bring up my Mountain Play Slack as well as my like SF Shakespeare Slack or something along those lines simultaneously, the way you can click over in Discord.
I mean, I find jumping back and forth between things in Slack to be quite easy. So but that's just my limited experience.
One of the things that I liked, again, for me, the things that I liked about Discord were, it was a native space to me before Slack existed, so I already liked it, right? But also it allowed for the voice chat, which I loved. They just launched the video chat function in like late 2019. So I'll be honest, I still think it's pretty buggy. But that video chat function on Discord will allow you to have in real time, like if you can't afford a Zoom account and you would like to have conversations, video conversations with colleagues, you can do that in your Discord video. Would you like to teach a class and you don't have a Zoom? You can do that in your Discord. You can share your screen. You can do all of those functionalities. Now you do have to like purchase a higher level type Discord if you want to record any of your stuff. So there is that level of functionality of, oh, if you're actually trying to create something where like when we're doing our work, we're making it asynchronously available to others, so we record it. We would not be able to do that in Discord unless we purchased the higher level membership. One of my things that I like about Slack is that it feels like it's easy to use immediately. But I feel like it has less functionality and is less it just feels less fun to be in. And I like Discord, but Discord requires a bunch of labor. There's a reason why I haven't invited you to the transmedia producing Discord space. It's because we're building it out. We want it to have really good directions and have a really clear ecology so that you're not entering a digital space of chaos.
Is Discord equally usable on your different devices the way Slack is? I mean, I go on Slack, I can use it on my phone, I can use it on the computer, and
I have used Discord successfully on PC, Mac, laptop, and iPhone.
You know, the one thing that did come up though is how Discord is used during performances. I remember Lawrence had brought up that he was been using it for people to either chat in or something along those lines. And I had a question about how to connect those. Danny, would you know anything on that line? You played with that on your performances?
Who are you asking?
Danny? Or Claudia, have you tried it with the, did you guys do it for the We Charge Genocide?
Yes. No, Danny could easily answer this as well. I'm now realizing. Yes, we used Discord for our backstage communication channel. And it was only semi-successful, honestly. And it's because we didn't build it out enough and rehearse using it as our backstage. So we actually ended up sort of organically and messily using 3 different communication channels. So text message and the chat and the Discord, which was not what we really wanted. There's also video game, like video game streamers where you'll have folks who are participating in the Discord, voice chatting in the Discord, and that's connected to your stream. So that's another way to connect people to a streaming performance you're doing through your Discord. So your audience could be vocally present. Yeah.
Yeah, for Cyber Wrench 1.0, we're looking at StreamYarding to Twitch, and then the Neo Futures have a Slack, and so we're using that as our backstage comms, and having 2 techs, one who's in charge of the actual sound and switching, and then the other person is in charge of waiting room monitoring, the chat, broadcasting things across from StreamYard. So hopefully, I don't know. I mean, it's an experiment, and we're gonna show it bugs and all, but that's the idea. But Discord sounds fascinating to me if it's like an advancement of that and that you could actually get people involved.
Well, speaking of StreamYard, this was the so it was Clayton Thomas's stream that I randomly ended up on Twitch TV Team Clayton Thomas. I was actually doing a lot of random, just checking out different, I was looking at the talk show podcast tagged, and I was finding a lot of interesting content and people creating interesting content underneath that label. So this was a singing, oh yes, I do want to go there. Allow me to go here. So now here we are on Team Clayton Thomas with, we might be actually able to see a video archive of that performance, but I'm not sure. All right, here we are on his main page. There we go. That was the singing showcase from yesterday that I witnessed.
Welcome to another episode of CT's Singing Showcase, the show.
So I'm just going to hit.
So thank you so much.
Oh, what did I just do? I was trying to hit. Oh, it's going to give me a commercial because it's being annoying. Oh, all right. So that's a thing that's very irritating with Twitch that happens. That if you're not paying to see this person, they're going to give you random interrupting commercials. It's super annoying. I don't know if that's part of your thought, Rob, as you're creating your shows on, because it is a thing. You're going to want you're just encourage your audience to subscribe to you immediately so they can avoid this annoyance. You might want to make a play about it. All right. There we go. So here they are playing. We're going to hit pause. Boom. Okay. What I liked about this is they had a scroll at the bottom that said, donate to this Cash App so that all of this money can go to the winning artist. And also I like that they gave the artist the money on camera. So I was like, all right, this is legit. I'm not not because I was a little worried. Now let's see if this, I'm wondering if, I'm guessing their StreamYard link no longer works. And so I can't actually do the experiment of trying to get into that backstage. But the way they had this set up was they had that StreamYard. Oh, I think it's still here actually. If I look at the way they have this labeled, yes, boom. So they said CT Singing Showcase, and then they literally just had this link. And I took the link, I copy pasted it, I stuck it in another window, and I was like, well, let's find out. And I'm assuming this isn't gonna work. It's gonna say it's no longer, oh my. Okay, let's see what happens. To enter the studio, so it has a rule, I'm not allowed to enter without revealing myself. So going back to that lurker conversation, they set up their StreamYard because they knew they were asking for strangers to come sing with them, to be in their contest. All right, I'm a little concerned. I didn't do a test run of me sharing this in this fashion, so I might cause some chaos with my computer. So we'll see what happens. Okay, that totally worked. All right, we're gonna say that my name is this. Okay, enter the broadcast studio. Wow, they need to work on their permissions to shut this down. I might give him a little message in Discord when we're done with this session. So when I entered, but here we are. So I'm backstage. Only the host could see me. And the host is the one who was allowed to add me to the performance. So it was just like, be ready. And then you were just sitting here. But then there was the private chat function where they could say, oh, hi, welcome to the singing contest. What song do you want to sing? Are you okay? This is how it's going to work. So that happened. And then there were other people here. And that's what this looked like. So let's leave this studio. And let's stop sharing the screen. Ah, there we go.
So you could see the stream, and could you see the other people in the backstage area?
I couldn't see the other people who were in the backstage area. I could see myself in a box. I could see what the stream was, and I could see in the chat different people's names, but I could not see their video.
But you were still seeing the show happen as well. So it's not like you missed the show by being backstage, which is kind of cool.
Not at all. I was seeing the show in real time, which is what allowed me, in theory, to, if I had wanted to actually compete in the singing contest, that's what would have allowed me to actually enter into it smoothly, because the backstage, you can fully see what's happening in the front stage.
I really do wish that it went into practice and wasn't just in theory, Claudia, that you actually went into the competition so we could stream it. But
for a hot second, I almost did, because I was like, Claudia, you just snuck into the backstage. Should you fully do this? And then I realized I'm looking at platforms. It's okay. I don't have to sing. But I love the way they were using it. Rob, I'm curious, why did you use or choose StreamYard? Because there's a lot of different, like, as we're building out our asynchronous learning lab, we're working on building different modules for StreamYard versus Streamlabs versus, there's a lot of options. Why StreamYard for you?
yeah, I mean, we do a lot of things in Zoom, and I've definitely done some live short performances in Zoom. And then we looked at what we could do with OBS and what we could do with Live Lab, and then I've also seen a demo of On the Stage, and yeah, that's it's a little bit, it's a ticketing, promotion, and streaming platform that, well, they take a feed from somewhere is a thing, but they are really good at handling ticketing for you. And because of the pandemic, all they're doing is taking ticketing fees. And then they have this set up. So it's an interesting demo. The hard part is we also have a whole Patreon, and they all get into the show if they want. So they're not exactly equipped for that easy transition, but we're talking to them as a possibility. But we wanted for the first one to try something that would allow us to be able to have a little bit more control over where we were on screen, which StreamYard does better than Zoom. And we have our technical director, Anthony. They are very StreamYard savvy. So it's also playing into their strengths. And we thought if we did that, we could stream it to Twitch and still sell tickets, and still have a ticketing structure that allowed us to be able to pay artists more, which is one of the main goals with having a live show, besides having an event to share our art, to actually have something that we can monetize different than a podcast or just a normal Patreon. So those were some of the main thinkings behind it. I think that it'll be interesting. We decided that in choosing it, that we were not going to say that from now on, that's what we're using, that the first show, this is what we're doing, and we'll see how it goes. And if we'll change as we need to. We're not in any contract with StreamYard or Twitch. And I think the one trick might be, in order to have ticketing work, to have the link be unique for each show, that we need to create a show-specific StreamYard that then goes away. We're still researching that, because otherwise people, if you bought a ticket for 1 month, then you'd have the same link for the next month, right?
Yeah, I'm guessing it's the same setup as this showcase. I'm definitely gonna DM this guy again and find out more about what Clayton's setup is for that.
Yeah, because ideally it doesn't matter for the Patreon people, but the people that are buying are single ticket buyers. We'd like for them to pay another time if they're going to come another time.
I think it's really interesting that you're using your Patreon as an entry point for accessing your content. Is there anyone else on here that's using Patreon as part of their, I guess, monetization and resourcing strategies?
Yeah, well, before, I mean, we've done it a few times where we'll release a video or a podcast there before it's made public. And then usually it's been effective to get a couple, 1 or 2 more Patreons. We're like, oh, I'll sign up to get it early because I want to listen to it now rather than next week.
Yeah, the Chicago Neos that's all their content. Their show is by being part of the Patreon, and they have a model. I mean, they're making $2,800 a week on their Patreon for their show. Our Patreon is like at $900 because most of our content was not behind the paywall. But in making this content, we shifted from having a $20 level that got free access or early access to one video, to now everybody on Patreon gets access to the show live, and then the Patreon has access to the recording of it as well.
So, so the person who pays, everybody can access live, but I have to pay if I want to see it again and have access to the archive.
Yeah, or just you can't make 8 o'clock on Saturday night Eastern time.
Oh, I think that's real smart. So, because I would definitely pay a little bit more for the privilege of being to access the content asynchronously. I love that.
Well, and it drives it to the Patreon. But what we decided was, since we're doing the sliding ticket accessible model, living theater, dynamic ticketing, that, I mean, you can pay the same amount on either platform. Ultimately, it's just that you've supposedly committed with the Patreon to a monthly thing. But you can always jump off of Patreon is a thing that we found. Not too many people, but some people have like, yep, things have changed.
One of the issues I have with Patreon right now is that they aren't searchable. So I thought that it was a great, I was using it, frankly, as a way to create modules of information that I could easily share with others without broken links. Before, I'd been using a Google Drive system, and then I learned the lesson, oh, if you reorder your files, you break all those links, and then you ruin the data or the content you were giving other people. So I thought Patreon would be a great tool for that, and it kind of is, but I'm now finding if I want to give someone the post I did on land acknowledgements, it's a project for me to scroll and find it.
Have you used tags?
Well, that's what I'm now doing. I'm now going back and like mega tagging everything and realizing, oh, this platform doesn't provide a search function. I actually have to do a search. I have to design a search ecology and then label things in that way. And honestly, I started tagging, and then the tags I had weren't good tags. So I do need to go back and re-tag everything so that things are more easily findable.
Claudia, I was hoping that you could share that really cool Discord server that you said that you were looking at. Because I know it's hard without kind of going after what you're looking for. I find it hard to kind of stumble or search upon stuff. It could be in the access in the resources later. I was really interested in looking at something that built out really nice.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I searched a lot. So like it was just me kind of going all over the place. So I don't have a list, but I can find some and I can provide some. Ooh, I think this is the top 3. Claudia's opinion of the top 3 most effective and beautiful entry points and entry point design. I will say I love it when Discord, when you can add some color, some like big labels to that space and make things a little more visible. I think that's a useful thing to do.
Something I have noticed is that teaching in high schools in New York City through digitally is that a lot of teachers are using Discord as a way for students to check in and to warm up to the interactive environment. And that's part of the way they check in before they enter the digital space. So I just wanted to offer that as something cool that I noticed.
Oh, that is cool. I'm wondering, I did mention a lot of different things we could chit chat about. I feel like we've covered a beautiful number of them. I had one go back, but then I'm wondering if we want to try and play with the Discord video feature just to give everybody a taste. Sound fun? Love it. All right. So the first go back was Joan Lipkin asked a question for the project Good Trouble. And I feel like this is a question we're asking ourselves more nowadays. And I love that we've got a great mix of artists that work with non-traditional cultural producing formats. So what is the length of the ideal cultural production? How long should it be? Can you invite a bunch of people to create something that's micro, that's tiny, and create an entire show out of that? We've got people in our conversation now that could speak to that. So yeah, should they be aiming that content towards TikTok? TikTok is a specific platform, and it has specific performative vocabularies and ways of being. So I feel like the platform, in some ways, it is the performance. Like TikTok is a kind of performance. So do you want to make a TikTok performance? So just really curious about if we could just ideate for like a couple of minutes, what are your thoughts around platform and length of performance?
I'm all for micro performances, and if your audience is on TikTok for what you're doing, which it sounds like it is, that you create those short videos, but then you take those videos and compile them into a longer form element that can be on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram or other social media areas, that they are, kind of, you can have all the little parts and then build a bigger ship and send it out in a different way, Being someone who doesn't often go on TikTok, I often watch TikTok on other platforms where it's more of them than one.
Mm-hmm. TikTok is mostly dance, isn't it? And isn't it like, it's not the platform that I go to, and isn't it usually a minute or under? Just put your thumb up if I've identified this correctly. Yeah? Claudia's putting her thumb down. Claudia, you putting your thumb down. I love you. You're so obstinate.
No, TikTok has more than dance. I mean, yeah, you can do the TikTok. I've done a TikTok dance, but like I go to TikTok for really funny, like they'll do parodies of films. And so you'll see like a high school student who will make an entire parody of a film in their living room. And you're like, that was amazing. So I love seeing the virtuosic producing from the mundane and also replicating things that took huge resources to create and somebody doing it on their phone. I watch those. There's a lot of political content on TikTok though, a lot. That's what I'm there for.
I see, and I couldn't see I couldn't see what you were doing. And is it basically 1 minute long? Is that what the deal is with TikTok? Is it always 1 minute? No.
I think there is a limit to it. I can't remember what it was though. I remember reading about it recently. It's not as quite as short as a Vine video, but I think there is a time limit to this. Or you want to make, I mean, that's kind of the point of it, is they are kind of microbyte videos anyway.
Right.
So anything long is sort of like too much or something.
The default is.
Oh, go ahead.
I was saying the default is 15 seconds, and then you can make it longer if you want.
I see 15 and 15 plus.
Yeah. So you can, so yeah, generally what you're doing though is I love that I'm talking like I'm a TikTok expert. I am not. I'm a hardcore TikTok lurker. I do not produce content on TikTok. I look at other people's TikToks and I do. My nieces and nephews know this. I'm following all of them. But the performative affect, I guess, of having these 15-second clips that create a 1 minute clip is that you can do a 1 minute full film where it's like, I did a 15-minute scene here. Now I did a 15-minute scene here. Next 15 minutes, and you get that style. So it gives you it reminds me a little bit of early YouTube style. Like there was a reason why they all sucked like this, because there was a time limit on YouTube and the performers were literally cutting out all the spaces and making it clippy. TikTok has that style as well. TikTok is a style. It reminds me of Vine as well. Do you remember Vine?
So Claudia and everybody, if I could just, I think my question is actually something that, although it's specifically to my project, I think it also opens up possibilities for things that other people want to work on. So if I could just quickly get feedback. The idea was that we thought about John Lewis and the fact that we wanted to honor him, and also that we thought that more people, younger people knew him than they knew some earlier folks. And so we're probably going to go through a specific university in St. Louis, but the university has access to all the other colleges in the area. So we had two ways that we're thinking about it. One would be that it was a competition. I don't really like competitions, but for cash, so that it would be an incentive because everybody needs money. And then the problem became sort of a democratic one of, well, what about people who have access and skill sets to go and they can work with the media, the School of Communications at X place, right? They know how to do certain things. And then we thought, or we could open it up and make it wider and not have it be a competition and just have it be an action that we offer, and that we'd choose a different platform, right? And if we made it more time-based, much shorter, like doing something on TikTok, it would offer more people opportunities. So I'd just be grateful to know what you feel speaks best. And for this demographic, my real interest is in helping to get out the vote with students and also with minority populations that I'm working with in the Midwest. Is that clear what I'm asking, Claudia? Is that making sense? Yeah, and I'm grateful for this feedback. I'm a theater director and all of this digital stuff is really a huge lift for me. It's a real learning curve, but I'm trying and I'm grateful for this platform. Thoughts? Rob, what do you think we should do? Scarlet, Robin, what do you think we ought to do? What do you think?
You specifically, Rob.
He was offering, he was offering what he's doing. So
yeah, I do have a TikTok account. No, I like the idea of like activating people in a way to say, okay, here's the competition. I mean, is it a competition or is it just a call to action?
Right.
And I guess some of that goes
for money. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about monetizing it, but it's getting that reach and to get a lot of I mean, it's going to take some work, but it seems like it's something that would hopefully activate people. But I mean, I love the idea.
We even have a wonderful working title for it, which is Good Trouble, right? How John Lewis asked me to vote. You know, the money thing is very interesting. We just commissioned 20 videos from all these BIPOC choreographers, some in St. Louis and some around the country. We didn't have a huge amount of money to offer. Everybody was so grateful because it spoke to them. We recognized the moment that we're in. We were like, not for, you know, like we're always being asked to do work for free, so many of us, right? They felt differently about the fact that we offered them money, and students always need money. But if you do a huge call to action, how do you do that? So there's that. And there's also like, what is the format that most people could make? You know, most people can't have access to certain production resources.
Yeah, I mean, TikTok seems to have a pretty broad access. It also depends on, you know, not sure what the TikTok demographic fully is. Obviously, there's the TikTokers against Trump, which I love, but
yeah. I think that's a good point. Like, what age groups are you trying to reach?
Collegiate. Totally collegiate.
Oh, okay.
I want to invite Sabina to voice aloud their beautiful comment, because I was like, oh, that's useful. Yes, yes, yes. I know all of my instincts are like TikTok contest for with $100 cash prize, golden. All I know is that I'm just thinking about what would my younger sister respond to, and I go, she would make a bomb-ass political TikTok that got people to vote, but was also really funny. And like, well, I'm now giving a bunch of pressure to my relatives, but I feel like that's what the output would be if you invited folks to do a contest on TikTok. And I think we have somebody on our call that has actual experience in doing something similar to this. Would you mind sharing that with us?
So we did TikTok and Vine as kind of like pre-scripting, like kind of getting people into the vibe of what the performance would be. I was in a Shakespeare troupe for a while, and like obviously Shakespeare is not super sexy to under 22-year-old audiences, so we made cool Vines and TikToks as ways of like showing people what kind of like previews of the performance, but also like using memes to be super fun and accessible, and then kind of carried those through in the ethos of the show. Super fun. It was a great way of promo as well, and super low cost, low effort as well, because they take like not that long to make. But yeah, definitely. I do think though, the TikTok audience is definitely more like 14 to 18-year-olds than collegiate audience. So I would be careful about that, because I think it skews even younger than Gen Z, rather than necessarily millennials.
What are collegiate age people using for their micro stuff?
I feel like some Twitter. I feel like collegiate age people, like I'm 22, and I feel like most of my peers are using Twitter and not TikTok, and are kind of like see TikTok as something for people in a younger age demographic. Like I see TikTok and I'm like, oh my God, I would have used this 4 years ago. But I also think that maybe someone who's more technologically advanced than I am. But yeah, Twitter for sure. But I also think people perhaps like an Instagram contest as well. But a TikTok contest is such a fun idea also. But if you're going for people that are voting age, I feel like people who are, older than 18 are less likely to use TikTok.
All right, my colleagues, this was amazing and super fun. This was a fabulous conversation. We actually reviewed a bunch of different platforms, talked through a bunch of different producing skills. This was a great session. Thank you for your knowledge and your smartness. I did put the link to our Discord in here. If you want to come visit and play with the sound or video function, I will be in there for probably until like noon. I'll mess around in there until noon. So please feel free to go check it out and play with it if you'd like. But I'm gonna promise to do an actual planned and designed Discord introduction to that space and all of those tools. Cause I didn't have us go into the settings. And I do feel like that's That's actually something where somebody can walk you through the settings in 5 minutes, and it makes it a lot easier to set it up and make it great. But thank you all for your time. I'm going to hit stop on recording. So we're going to say goodbye and hit stop.